our second topic of the day and of the show, I want to talk about the community, that being the Watch Dogs community at large, and ways in which we as a community can help continue growth here in the franchise. So when I look on Twitch, guys, when I look on YouTube, and I look for content regarding Watch Dogs, certainly there are people who create content, there are people who stream the game, but it's not as much as, say, other games and other franchises out there. Let's kind of keep it grounded with, say, the Ubisoft IPs out there. So you look at Far Cry, you look at Assassin's Creed, of course, The Division, you look at Rainbow Six, you look at a number of these games, right? And most of them get better viewership than Watch Dogs, and which is really interesting to me because, when you look at Watch Dogs, it's a full package. It has, campaign, multiplayer elements, and things of that nature. Some of these other games that Ubisoft makes does not have any other modes outside of the campaign or the story mode. And so what I'm getting at here is, how can we, as a fan base of Watch Dogs, how can we continue growing the scene moving forward? And so I think what it really comes down to, guys, and I talk ad nauseum about this when it comes to just IPs in general from these companies, but I think that when you look at the landscape of gaming and you look at all of the games out there that have really passionate fan bases, but more than that, they have a thriving, fan base because of the amount of content that's coming out from that game. More eyeballs are watching that game from a streaming perspective and such. You look at that, and the reason is because you've got people that are supporting each other. You have a lot of those things. You also just have people in general that are creating content or streaming the game. I think the problem with Watch Dogs is that there's a lack of, not necessarily a fan base, because I believe that there's a thriving fan base here, but I think the problem, to me at least, is that there's a lack of really supporting one another when it comes to, from a content creation perspective, from a streaming perspective. There's not a lot of people who stream the game. I think moving from Watch Dogs 2, and we kind of have learned now what we've done right, wrong, and what we can do different moving forward. The same can be said for Ubisoft from Watch Dogs 2 to Watch Dogs Legion. I think we as a community need to be creating more content. We need to be streaming more. And then people who watch the game and really love the game need to be supporting that. They need to be watching the streams, watching the content on YouTube. And I think if we do those things and then we support Ubisoft and kind of give our opinion in a civil way as to what we think needs to be changed and such, then it's kind of in Ubisoft's court to kind of make those changes and such to make the experience as good as possible. But I think at the end of the day, guys, it really comes down to us as a community really growing this thing out. Ubisoft's going to do what they can do with marketing and things of that nature, but it comes down to us as a community, those of us who love Watch Dogs, to, really kind of put it out there and get more and more eyeballs on the game. So, like, for myself, I felt to myself personally, I create so much different types of content on YouTube when it comes to different games and IPs and such. And that's why I decided, one big reason why I decided to kind of have more centralized focus on specific games. One of those being, of course, Watch Dogs, with this show being The Resistance. I felt that there was a need within the Watch Dogs community to have a show, or at least do my part in trying to help the growth of this franchise, because it's one I really enjoy, one that I want to see continued for, into the next generation of consoles, and then, of course, guys, have more and more iterations of this franchise moving forward, because I think it's one of those games that's been really underrated by Ubisoft. It's just been one of those games that kind of gets overlooked because of games like Assassin's Creed, games like Rainbow Six, even Far Cry. And so Watch Dogs, though, I think has a really, it's got a special place, and it needs to coexist with these other games in the landscape of gaming as a whole. And so the way that we do that, though, is by us as a community continuing to create content, creating to stream, and then for those of us who just enjoy it, we watch those streams, we watch that content on YouTube. That really helps just building the audience and the fan base that is Watch Dogs as a whole, guys. It'd be great to see, Ubisoft do some sort of, creator programs or something where, they support, creators and streamers and such for creating content around Watch Dogs. It kind of gives more of an incentive to continue creating content and talking about these games and such, which I'm not sure if they do that at this point, guys. I don't know if they're planning on doing that for Watch Dogs Legion, but things like that really help to get people to talk about your game, and it gets you to, create content around it, and then that brings more eyeballs, so on and so forth. So I really want to, I kind of just want to throw it out there that I think that if you're really into Watch Dogs and you are a content creator or you're a streamer, to stream the game, to create content around the game and talk about it. And I think that that's, I think this is an untapped IP that not lots of people really, create content or stream around. I mean, we look at like Watch Dogs 2 and what, how many people are streaming that on a given basis. Some people might be doing it because Watch Dogs Legion is coming, but I think it's really important, guys, that when Watch Dogs Legion comes out, there's going to be a lot of people playing the game. I think it's going to be probably one of the biggest launches for the Watch Dogs franchise in particular, but it's up to us as a community to sustain that after the game launches. It's going to be up to us. I mean, sure, Ubisoft has to do their part, but we have to do our part to really continue the growth of this franchise moving forward. And so with that, guys, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts about this. And look, it really comes down to us as a community. And I say this all the time, like in the Gears cast, I talk about this as well, because Gears of War is another one of those games where there are people creating content around it, and the fan base is growing over time, but it's really up to us to continue creating content and bringing in those those people that, might not really have even heard much of Gears of War, but then after, watching, when there's so X amounts of people that are creating content and streaming the game, they might just try it out and just see what it's all about. And that just brings more people to the scene, or more people to the game as a whole. And so I just think that's really important, especially, guys, with this being a new game coming out in the Watch Dogs franchise. It's kind of almost like a fresh start. It's not called Watch Dogs 3. This is Watch Dogs Legion. And I think that this is going to be a great place for new people to come into the Watch Dogs franchise. And it'll be a great place for us who have played the game and been a part of this franchise in the past to continue really, trying to build off of what was established, but kind of even take it to further heights. It's really going to come down to that, guys. But let me know. Let's have a real conversation about it, guys. Are you guys, excited about what Watch Dogs Legion could really bring to the table for us as a community? And what do you guys think we need to do in order to move this franchise forward in a positive direction? Let's have a real conversation about it.